Stop! Shut it. Here's a true story about a young lad named John. Just a local farm boy, but there was something special about the lad. A glint in his eye, a fire in his belly, a spring in his step. And one day, he went for a walk. Now this walk began when his father died.
One day, 1823, young John Walker went a walk. That walk led him down to Kilmarnock. Led him off the farm and into his grocery store. Like most grocers back then.
So back in 1823, young Alexander Walker was born in Scotland, and his father died leaving him his little grocery store. The wee lad was only 15 years old. There was a big responsibility for the lad to run the grocery store. Now all these guys back then they sold malt whiskies in their shop, but they were a wee bit inconsistent. So he started blending and pulling them all together to get some consistency in his scotch, and pretty soon people came from all around to get young Alexander's scotch whiskey.
And because there's nothing like a commercial proposition to stir the Scottish heart, it grew quickly into an industry filled with ambitious entrepreneur distillers. John thrived in this environment, and so too soon with his sons, Robert and Alexander, who joined him on his journey. The Walkers became the biggest name in a rapidly growing industry. They were unstoppable. In one bold bit of 19th century corporate raiding, they bought the famed distillery at Carlyle, lock, stock and ensuring their supply of this silky single malt, and guaranteeing, more importantly, that none of the other big blenders could get their hands on it.
So the boy from Kilmarnock set up his factory, organised his bottles, had the casks all set up, ready to go, and started exporting that whiskey all over the world. The bottles are shaped square, so they didn't roll, they stacked better in the ship, and stood out on the shelf. Along with this, the label set at 12 degrees, so it stood out from everybody else.
Unmistakable presence on any shelf in the world.
Right, JW. Quite a contrary popular belief, the angle of the label was 22 degrees. Many competitors thought it was set at 12. But precisely 22 degrees made it stand out on bar tops. And the square bottles allowed them to stack more inside a carton. It gave it a distinctive shape that became well known the whole world over. Once Johnny Red took off, he started creating a master blend of black, which then went on to create some green, and the royal granddaddy of them all, the rarest of the rare, Johnny Walker Blue.
120 countries, and he continued walking through the brand's advertising over the next 50 years into the fabric of global culture, deep into the dark hearts of several wars, to the pleasure palaces of the aristocracy, immortalised by screen legends, celebrated by filmmakers, singers, songwriters, novelists, shoulder to shoulder with the great sportsmen of the age, winning countless international awards for quality, and even being awarded the Royal Warrant by King George V. No going back after that. Not that going back would even have occurred to Johnny or any of his family. By the end of the 20th century, the familiar red label and black label were joined by the green label, the gold label, and the grandest of them all, Johnny Walker Blue Label. By the beginning of the 21st century, Johnny Walker wasn't just the world's biggest whiskey brand, but an international symbol of progress. The brand's "Keep Walking" mantra, adopted by pro-democracy protesters and parliamentary speechwriters. What would the farm-born Victorian grocer have thought of all of this? He'd have loved it. A Victorian farm-born grocer he might have been, but he and the family that followed him were possessed by a fiery ambition with the skill and intelligence to match. 200 years later, and Johnny Walker's still walking, and he's not showing any signs of stopping.
walking in the beautiful lands of Scotland.
What the? Are you serious?